I wish I could tell you a story. A story that might evoke some kind of emotional feeling and therefore change your perception. A story that would help. But a story must have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and I can't remember where this started, and the middle is so fuzzy, and it definitely hasn't ended. I think of all the stories I've told in my life, ones of friends, family, lovers, relationships, happiness, and darkness. I think of the stories that only took minutes, those took hours, and the ones I'm yet to finish. The ones that I will cherish forever, those that are still to come, and the ones that will float away to make room for the new. A story is a gift, something I offer you so you may know me. A story, whether true or false, fact or fiction, is an essence, a gateway to a person. A story where you fall for the first day, where you spit and a word bites the neck, where you blink and your face is deeper. So breathe in the fortune of others, revel in the moments of friends, sleep in the kindness of lovers, and hate for the blindness after each has passed. I think of a story of a man hunched forward in a chair, chest inclined, shoulders facing inwards like his collarbones are reaching for the walls to the side. I think of a woman whose hands are held close, and I can just make out the color of her nail varnish as she scratches it away, but I can't remember whether it was lilac or blue. I'm too focused on her as she turns her back to the room, fidgeting quickly to pull the strap of her top back over her shoulder. I used to feel myself in both of these people, uncomfortably confined to the constraints of cloth, but this moment is in the past, one of nostalgic tension that has disappeared to reveal bodies. Revealed bodies, bodies revealed, released bodies, however you like it. But for me, it's over now, and I can still remember the sense of feeling of how it then felt to be stripped of dealing in armor for space, for tranquility and taste. So I offer you my body. see a figure. A body perhaps, but that I can't quite discern. In a small dark space, maybe a room or a field, filled with light and smoke, a haze that makes my eyes water and squint. With walls of wet cement and branches that hang too low from the ceiling. I try to fill in the details, but the image keeps altering. I try to find the story, because I know it has one. And then there's skin. The skin I feel is tough and worn, but smooth in parts, especially parts unknown. The skin I taste is sweet but sharp. It cuts my cheek but never bleeds. The wound is deep and it will not heal. Salty from a day of work, or spent in bed, of wearing shirts or skirts or just a top. I could not say. There is no material performance in this space. You leave it all at the door. Wait. Or was it a gate? This thing I feel. Maybe a night of dancing is what I taste. Moving to a beat that never stops, on heavy feet in constant flux. Feet that stamp and shift, connected to liver, connected to legs that shiver and shake, to a body that thrusts and breaks, to arms that raise and ache, to a head that bangs and makes, a soul that gives and takes. This thing, I feel it comes in many shapes, but the shapes themselves, they seem irrelevant. Like a child who has grown out, pushing squares and triangles through slots in a box because they would not fit. They are too big and strong for any cubic cave you could conceive. Lost, not in a house, but a home, to a family they have never known.
Baby, it's cool with me that you like to lie, 'cause I see the depression filling up your eyes, and I see oceans overflowing. Babe, it's cool with me that you want to die, and I'm not gonna stop you if you try. But the hole in my belly has started growing. Your name is about as easy to remember as the four ethers, and who the hell knows the four ethers? Oh, your pain is about as easy to feel as the four ethers, and who can do without the four ethers? Babe, I know you learned some fucked up shit from your mother. Had you tucking your dick? Had you hiding the shit that really made you special? Oh, oh, oh. Show me yourself, baby. I know you picked up some fucked up habits from your father. Had you folding over your ears, denying the shit that you hear. But I'm asking you to feel me, feel me. Your name is impossible to know. You're like my four ethers. How the hell do you know the four ethers? Your pain is impossible to hold. You're like the four ethers. Baby, what do I do with these four ethers? Oh, your name is like the four ethers. What do I do with these four ethers? Oh. Can't draw you no warm bath no more. How can I touch somebody who won't even touch themselves? Oh, it's tiring to me. I'm fine with you being a liar. I'm fine with you being a killer. I'm fine with you being suicidal. That shit don't bother me. No. But you gotta show me yourself. Oh, you gotta show me yourself.
They named it melancholy. A sunken place hollow beneath the surface, an indentation and undertaking, a dysphorian utopia. They said, bury the suffering under a stone and step over it singing, but imagine another dialogue, one with words and causes and not symptoms. Bury the suffering under a stone and step over it singing, a harmony of pensive sadness, a concept with no cause, attributed to all and nothing, the weight and logic of a cloud made from steel. I steal, you steal, they steal a moment. Time stolen by a concept with no cause. Time does not stop, it does not falter or fray, but it is stolen and the melancholy are left on pause. But bury the suffering under a stone and step over it singing a song of cheer and joy, a song with a sweet melody, a song everyone knows the words to, a song better known as the acquired smile. So show me your teeth. I wake up and I pinch my shoulders together, I grind my teeth. The sensation of morning, the coffee and cigarettes makes me go to a place where I am a woman of the films, the old ones and the new. I drink tap water, bad, bitter coffee, and cheap beer that I watch carefully, and in its own form, a way to drown. But sometimes we float. My name is Phoenix. I am a performer, a friend. I am trans, non-binary, and femme. And I am constantly being asked to prove or quantify my transness. I should not have to feed you an explanation. I do not owe you an explanation of my identity. My identity exists because I exist. My identity exists for me and me alone. My existence is valid and important and political. My identity is political because the world that we call home has made it political. When our governments and legislators dictate laws and regulations that directly affect how I move through this world, you make my existence political. And I want to make the politicalization of my identity educational, informative, and helpful. So I will tell you a story. I have known that I had a trans experience since I was around 8 years old. I just had no idea it was called trans. There was no representation of trans or gender variants in my town or school or the media. There were, however, plenty of misrepresentations of trans people in the media, which taught me from a young age that whatever it was that I was feeling, that society viewed it as abnormal, weird, different, or other. And other is still now being the only box I can tick on documents or forms. But now I do know what they're called. But the issues didn't stop there. When you come out or tell someone that you are trans, you are constantly met with a million external and also internal questions, most of which are extremely personal, misconstrued, misinformed, excessive, and inappropriate. And one of the first thoughts that run across people's minds are about my genitalia, surgery, hormones, based on medical transition rather than social transition, which in fact is someone trying to judge or perceive how trans you are, as if your transness is a measurable, quantifiable, volumetric product. Like hormones for bronze, surgery for silver, and gold for passability in a heteronormative world. And to do this, to quantify someone else's identity based on external cosmetic, aesthetic change is extremely diminishing and invalidating of that person's experience and self. And we do the same in other areas, these snap judgments based on a way a person looks, whether multiple tattoos or their sense of style. We start to perceive and interpret things, jobs, achievements that that person could or couldn't have. And for most of us, we know this don't judge a book by its cover ideology is right, and yet we judge anyway. And it is happening constantly to trans and gender non-conforming individuals, where you question whether they are enough, whether they are trans enough, whether they are woman enough, whether they are male enough, based on a prehistoric concept against their passability. And what does this do? It creates a norm to question transness, which is in turn internalized by trans people who start to question if their own identity is enough. And I'm here to say that I've had enough. Enough is enough, and I am enough. Your transness, your existence, your identity is yours and no one else's. And there is such a lack of knowledge or information, or better yet, there is a lack of need and want to go out and find that information about transness or trans. And especially when it comes to medical transitioning, transitioning is not easy and it is not simple. There are so many different steps and processes, from hormones to reaffirming surgeries to top and bottom surgery to facial feminization or man sculpting. And the process to get to this point is not either. Either you join a waiting list or you have to do a year of gender affirming therapy. And these surgeries and hormones, they are extremely expensive, and health insurance in most places is only just starting to cover them. So a lot of trans people will have one surgery, maybe two, and some will have none because they don't feel the need to, or they don't want to, or they don't have the access. And that does not in any way make them any less trans. And as I mentioned before, transitions are not only medical, but social. Social transitioning, changing one's name or pronouns or aesthetic to how they appreciate the world. My pronouns are they, them, she, her. I use multiple pronouns to showcase the complexity of my identity, each holding a meaning that I have created so as to embrace the beauty of my multiple sides. And that meaning can change and shift to accommodate me and my needs and my experiences. Pronouns are not exclusive. He, him isn't just for men, she, her isn't just for women, and then they isn't just for non-binary folks. The only pronouns I don't use are he, him, as I do not identify with the trauma that these have brought me in the past. So when someone tells you their pronouns, for you it may just be a word, but for them it could be a lifetime of trauma. I was assigned male at birth, but I do not recognize that alignment in any way, regardless of my aesthetic or my body. This is why I identify as trans and non-binary, Because for me, a trans person can be anyone who does not identify with the gender that was given to them at birth. And for me, non-binary is anyone that does not prescribe to the two binary genders of male or female. But still, many people will judge a person's social transition based on their aesthetic. It is a common misconception that gender non-conforming and non-binary folks are androgynous, that their gender performance is both masculine and female. And for me, this is counterintuitive, as I do not believe or concern myself with the binary labels attached to aesthetic. For instance, a dress is no longer female-owned, body and facial hair are no longer male-owned. And you really have to ask yourself the question, what does a man look like? What does a woman look like? Because there is no definable answer. And what is gender? Gender describes the characteristics that a society or culture delineates as either masculine or feminine, meaning gender is a socially conditioned and chosen notion. It is taught and it is learned, and it is time to start unlearning. Because these social norms that try to answer the question of what it is to be a man or a woman cause daily consequences and punishments for everyone and anyone that does not fit into these ideals. And this really battles everyone. And transition is not a finite process. We are in constant transition. My transition is not over yet, and it never will be, regardless of hormones or surgeries or clothing or choice of name or pronouns. It can all change multiple times until I feel complete. But no matter what, the transition and the transness and the identity are mine. And people like to act like transness and gender variance are a new and modern concept, but trans is not new. Gender variants have been around for longer than we all think. Almost 2,000 years ago, there is proof and evidence of two spirits, a third gender from Native American indigenous cultures, who were recognized as shamans and spiritual leaders in their communities. It wasn't until colonialization that we saw a change in perceptions when it comes to binary gender confirmation. And for as long as trans people have been around, those in power have fought to disenfranchise trans people to live lives that are ours. Here in Berlin in the 1930s, Magnus Hirschfeld, an early pioneer for the LGBT plus rights, and his peers were decades in front of the world in trans research. But when the Nazis burnt down his library and practice, it was a clear attempt on trans erasure, and unfortunately not the last. The fight for trans, non-binary, and gender non-conforming rights is not a new fight, but it is still raging on. Worldwide, a trans person is killed on average every 3 days, if not more. And most of these trans people are trans women of color. And most of the killers are men dissatisfied by the woman's embodiment of femininity. And femme for some people can be the difference between life and death, between violence and safety. So why are we being shamed and slaughtered for our femme, a femme that the world and society has tried to license and take agency over? The classical definition of femininity is having qualities or an appearance traditionally associated with women. And so I have a few problems with this definition. Firstly, the word tradition. If you ask most queer people about the word tradition, it is not a positive response. Tradition means the transmission of customs or beliefs from generation to generation, with symbolic meaning or significance with origins in the past. And for me, adopting beliefs from the past is not very progressive. At one point, we believed the earth was flat, that racism and homophobia were okay, and that women didn't deserve the vote, which we now mostly, but not all, accept as incorrect. Secondly is qualities or an appearance, again based off of traditional and backwards concepts of what a woman should be. Therefore, the basis of these ideals and qualities comes from the past, a past where women had less rights, less pay, less education, less equality, but more sexual assaults, more domestic violence, and no voice. At the end of the day, the terms femininity and masculinity as culturally accepted ideologies leave no space for creativity, expression, or freedom, and yet they still exist. But luckily, there are people redefining the word femme and what it stands for. And it is not a singular definition. It is a power for each individual person to decide and determine what it means to them. Because femme is expansive, femme is queer, femme is intersectional and strong and beautiful. Your femme is for no one but you. And we define our femme because femme is for us. And not all femmes are women, because anyone can be femme. My femme changes every day to fit and help me. It is both internally spiritual and externally political. All I ask is that we try and learn and grow so that everyone has the space and possibility to try and learn and grow. Because we can all have equality when we all have equity. Thank you.